Hi, I'm Sherry McCormick, Chief Marketing Officer with TLCengine, and I'm here to help you understand how to use this valuable tool that's a benefit to you through NorthstarMLS. Right now, this service is already inside of the MLS. In fact, it has been since around November of 2014, but you probably just didn't know how to use it. So we're going to give you the tools that you need to help your buyers and help your sellers. So let's get started. A little bit about TLCengine. Our CTO, Jason Lobo, has been in software engineering for about 15 years. Our CEO is currently a realtor and has been for 10 years. He's been the Vice President of Technology with Citibank and an Innovation Fellow with Big Data for the U.S. government. Now, what happened with Krishna is he was moving from Hawaii to New Jersey. Why anybody would want to do that, I have no idea, but that was his problem. He was trying to figure out what is it going to cost for him to live in a specific house versus another and commute into the city. Well, the more he asked his realtor, the more research that he had to do. And in his frustration, he actually came up with a whole spreadsheet to try to figure out what the taxes would be, what the utilities would be. And so then he thought he had it really good, except when he moved in, he had a baby, and then several months later, he had the in-laws visit, and then the temperature was up to like 78 degrees in the middle of the winter, and he got his first utility bill after having the child. He was used to $100 a month, now it's $400 a month, and he goes, I'm really smart. I should have been able to figure this out. So in his frustration, he actually became a realtor and looked at all the tools that are out there being offered to help buyers answer one basic question. And that question is, can I afford to live in this house? So he developed a tool that was helping his buyers answer that question. And instead of keeping it to himself, that's how TLCengine was born. My background is I've been in real estate for 16 years. I was in internet marketing for 25 years. Oh, wait, see if you know what this is. Just smile and nod if you do. We call that a handshake. That's how old I am. So, and what happened was I became a realtor and I got bit by the technology bug. I had to be a part of technology. I looked at the paperwork and said, it's not if, it's just a matter of when I mess paperwork up, because good at marketing, not so good at paperwork. So that's what brought me here, is the fact that I have been the techie junkie at all the different real estate conventions. I worked for virtual tours. I worked for Realtor.com that became Move.com. I was the vice president of sales for a website company for quite a few years, and that became Constellation Enterprises. And then I also worked for Remax as a technology lead in a very successful cafe-style office, technology lead for Keller Williams, and I also worked for Homes.com. And so in doing that, I found that there's a lot of tools that are being offered to realtors. But until somebody could actually solve a real problem, I wasn't really interested because I saw so much was being just thrown at realtors. And a lot of times I'd ask realtors, what is that doing for you? Can you track that back to a specific tool that got you that transaction? And there wasn't a real clear-cut answer. So I got into social media marketing for 2 years until I met Krishna this past year. And what I saw is that what TLCengine does at its heart is it changes the way real estate is being bought and sold. And it's going to change your life, and it's going to change the lives of those buyers and sellers entrusted to your care. So that's kind of like the resume reason why I'm here, but I'd like to know why people are really here. So I'm going to share with you my personal story, and that starts with these two guys. The fellow on the left was my brother Rick. The reason I say was is because I was at his funeral 3 years ago. While I was at his funeral, because he had died very suddenly, I'm texting my other brother, George, who'd been in South America for 30 years. And I said, your brother's passed away. I'm here at the funeral. 10 minutes later, he texts me back and says, I'm so sorry to hear that. And oh, by the way, I have the same thing. So both of my brothers passed away in the same year from cancer. And that's what makes me so passionate about wanting to give back and about understanding that we're only here for a short period of time. The other big reason is that guy, married to him 33 years, and I have been to 64 Eagle Scout ceremonies. Ladies and gentlemen, I need a patch for that. I think we want to get that. So here's what we're doing. We're trying to give back to the community. It's a big part of our family. It's also a part of what my mom's been doing. Here she is. I break her out of the nursing home on weekends. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's a number of years ago, and basically I stopped. I stopped life and I worked at an Alzheimer's daycare for a year to learn how to take care of her. So I did those things that I wanted to do to make sure that I was giving back. And you know what? When I push her around in her wheelchair, I notice everybody's smiling at her. And like, they don't smile at me. I'm from Philadelphia. So I'm looking at my mom like, what is going on? What is this that you're smiling at everybody? She says, I just love to see people's faces. So you know what she taught me? You can bring joy to people's lives, and it doesn't make any difference what your status or your position in life is. So she's my hero. And then finally, these crazy warriors, all with their foam swords at Christmas time. Those are my kids, my daughter, 2 sons, and my daughter-in-law from Thailand. You see, they're tomorrow's home buyers. In fact, my oldest son is now looking for a house to buy. So the thing is, I think there's something that they've experienced that I think we can kind of cut down on. They experienced watching one of their grandfathers lose his house to foreclosure, one of their grandmothers lose her house to foreclosure. And so when I spoke to Krishna about what TLCengine does, that's why it pulled at my heartstrings. Because at TLCengine, we believe no one should have to live in a home they can't afford. And that's exactly the question we answer. Can I afford this home? Because at TLCengine, we accurately forecast the true lifestyle cost for buyers to live an affordable lifestyle in the right home choice. So, here's what you need to be asking every one of your buyers. Would you make the largest purchase decision of your life with only half the information? And the answer is no. Right, okay. Just making sure you're awake. See, that's exactly what we've been doing as realtors since time immemorial. Because you see that the mortgage only represents roughly half of the information that is adding to the cost of living in a house. So what's the other half? And think about this. You're moving in the house, you're making all your decisions based on the mortgage, and then you move in. Then the utilities aren't what you expected. You have changes in your car insurance. The taxes aren't what you expected. And so there's all these costs that you didn't know about. And so this is why we know, according to the National Association of Realtors, 80% of the buyers, 8 months after they move in a house, they don't want to talk to their realtor so much anymore. It's because of these things, because we're positioning ourselves as being the experts in real estate, the experts in our neighborhood, and yet we couldn't answer that other half of that cost question. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The secret is buyers all have nightmares. So let me show you what their nightmare is. See, they know what their budget is. They're scared to death that when they get that house, it's just not going to fit. So that bridge would be the budget, and the mobile home would be the house that doesn't fit, because even if you're off by just a little bit, that means I can't take a vacation. My kids can't go to the school that I wanted them to. I can't save for retirement. This is their nightmare. So what about those other costs? What are they? The mortgage represents about half. We also have taxes, utility, commuting costs, insurance, maintenance costs. All of those are impacted by the specific home you buy. So welcome to your future. This is home search based on the total cost of home ownership. So you might want to ask your buyers, why are you searching on every other website that's out there just based on beds, baths, and mortgage, when you could be searching based on the total cost of home ownership? Why search with half the information when you could search with all the information? So what does that mean for you as a realtor? What it means is that you bring lifetime value to your clients. You offer a service that is above and beyond any internet home search, because there is no other place on the internet where your buyers or sellers could find this information. It's only offered to you as a realtor. So what you should understand is that TLCengine has been approached by large portals, and we've refused to sell to them because we want this to be a tool that is for a realtor, to give you a definite advantage over everything else that's out there. You should also know that franchises have looked to us and wanted us to sell out so that they could have a market advantage, because with this service, you can actually take over market share. But we didn't want to go that way. And we've also looked at, well, you know, as a realtor, I know that people always have their hand in my pocket. So what we did is we partnered with your MLS so that this becomes a benefit to you, so that you can provide the best possible service to your buyers and in your marketplace. So hooray, you just need to log into your MLS and this tool is there for you. So what do? We take 31 different lifestyle cost variables and we add that to every listing so that the calculations are done specifically for that buyer on that listing itself. What we do is we take big data and we're adding that to each listing. We're getting information from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the National Transportation Safety Board, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, MyFICO, Minnesota Open Data, U.S. Department of Energy, CarInsurance.com, Xcel Energy, Metro Transit, and a whole host of others that we couldn't even put on this slide. We're taking information, this big data, and we're actually making it usable and making it applicable and specific to each buyer. So for example, I know that in NorthstarMLS, there's no energy data on the house itself. So what we have is information from the U.S. Department of Energy and Xcel Energy. And based on the exact location of the house, the square footage of the house, and the age of the house, we're able to give your buyers a pretty good estimate of what that utility cost might be for them when they move in. But let's take that a step further. What if your buyer's buying a house, maybe a 3-bedroom, 1-bath rancher from a widower who spends 3/4 of his time in Florida, probably the coldest month of the year in Minnesota. And so at settlement, he gives you his average utility bills, which are about $50 a month. And now you're bringing a young couple with 3 little kids into the house. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, exactly. They're in for a big awakening because you couldn't really estimate what their utility would be. So with TLCengine, we actually have an intake interview for the buyer to be able to tell us, well, what size family is going to live in this house? How many adults? How many kids under 5? How many kids over 5? Is it an empty nester? Are you single parent? Because all of that affects utilities. So we can take that information, apply it to a very good estimate, and get a much more accurate look at what the utilities will be for that specific family. So we do have an intake process. You can fill this information is intended for the buyer to fill in. You can get involved and show them how to fill in this form. A lot of it they may want to keep for themselves. So there is a way for just take the buyer's first name, their last name, and their email address. That's all you need. You put it into our system, you click save, and immediately a buyer will get a username and a password to enter a confidential, secure place where they could build up their budget. Because what we're trying to do is come up with the total cost, their total budget. Now there's 2 ways you could get to that. One is you could ask your buyer, well, what's your net income? Pretty much they all know that because that's what they live on. So you take your net income, about how much money do you want to save each month? Then we take that, from their savings from their net income, and that's a good number to start with. Maybe that's our maximum TLC amount. That's coming from the top down. The more accurate way would be to build it from the bottom up. So there's an opportunity for a buyer to enter in their income, their insurance, their taxes, TV, internet, daycare, their car make, their car model, or several cars, their commute, their phone, their lifestyle costs. They're building every component of their budget from the bottom up so that they can come up with their true lifestyle costs. And somewhere between that two, that's what you do a property search on. Then you need to make sure that you tell your buyers that their information, number one, is confidential. When they receive that invitation to become part of this process, they can click a button that says share this information with their agent or not. So you don't even have to know all the details of their budget. In fact, probably most of us don't really need to know their Netflix bill. What we want is that TLC amount to do the property search on. So it is confidential. And number 2, oh, by the way, we're not taking this information and reselling it or repurposing it. It's only a workspace just for your buyers to do their budget. That's all it is. And we make sure that it's secure. Our CEO, having come from the banking industry, takes this very seriously. So we follow NSA security protocols, which is what the federal government uses, it's what the banking industry uses when you're going online or you're doing your checking online. And what that means is that this entire data, all the data that's put in, is encrypted. It's useless to hackers who, if they stole the information, it's useless if without the token to unencrypt that data. So that's important for you to let your buyers know. So we're creating a TLC budget amount in order to do a property search. We take all of the information that's in the MLS and we're putting that into TLCengine. Then we're adding calculators, local information, and big data to every listing. And where there's some unknowns, we're using predictive analytics to find that out. The utilities, for example. The buyer's costs are added to each listing as well. So here's what happens. When you send a listing to your buyer from TLC, if they haven't filled in any information, they have an opportunity to click a button that says start the TLC process or calculate your savings. They go through there and they can add their costs right to that listing. If they have completed the intake information, then they're going to see their individual budget on every listing you send to them. So on each listing, the buyer sees everything that they will be spending when they move into that house. So the total lifestyle cost is the monthly budget amount, and that's the factor that's used in your home search. So let's get started. Let's find out how to use TLCengine in your home search right through NorthstarMLS. So I'm going to sit down, we're going to take this right online, and we're going to log into Northstar.